Today's standing is for reading God's Word from the book of Exodus, chapter 4, verses 10 through 17. It's Moses speaking just after a number of miraculous signs were performed for him to be able to see the power of God. Verse 10, chapter 4, book of Exodus. But Moses said to the Lord, "O my Lord, I am not eloquent, either in the past, or since you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and of tongue." Then the Lord said to him, "Who has made the man's mouth? Who makes him mute or deaf or seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what to speak." But he said, "Oh my Lord, please send someone else." Then the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses, and he said, "Is there not Aaron, your brother, the Levite? I know that he can speak well. Behold, he is coming out to meet you, and when he sees you, he will be glad in his heart. You shall speak to him and put the words in his mouth, and I will be with your mouth and with his mouth, and will speak and will teach you both what to do. He shall speak for you to the people, and he shall be your mouth, and you shall be as a God to him. And take in your hand his staff, with which you shall do his signs." Amen. You may see it. Well, we are moving our way through this topical series this summer on life-giving friendships, and a couple of months ago I wrote down Moses and Aaron. Not totally sure why, but I just thought they had a friendship. They're brothers. They're engaged in pretty significant work together. And I started to amend the word friendship to relationship. Because when you think about your siblings, some of you may think in terms of a friendship, some of you may think in terms of a relationship. And sometimes those two things aren't exactly the same. If you're here this morning and say, "Well, I don't have any siblings," it's okay, because family relationships, family friendships span not only brother and sister, but also father and mother, and uncle and grandparent, and so on. I think there's something in this text for all of us. And we're going to move through a couple of different texts, not something I'm typically accustomed to, but I'd like to look at several different texts as we think about the relationship that existed between Moses and Aaron, brothers, engaged in a pretty significant ministry. But really how that relationship, the dynamic of that relationship, not only through the help of Aaron, but also through the heartbreak, the utter heartbreak of Aaron. Because this is something I think we all can understand. That these kinds of family relationships encompass both help and utter heartbreak. And if there are any two people in the Bible, I think that would encapsulate that, it would be Moses and Aaron. And there's something in these texts as we read them, little pieces, that I think the takeaways are so helpful. And I think we're going to primarily look at the life of Moses, but to really see how Aaron played a part and a role in his life that God would use for Moses to be able to lead people, and I think to lead Moses in a deeper relationship with the Lord. So the first text here, as we think about the dynamic between Moses and Aaron, help and heartbreak, is the one I chose is from Exodus chapter 4. This is the introduction of Aaron as Moses' brother. But I think it too really starts to help us understand the help that God is going to give to Moses as he navigates the task that God's going to give him to do to lead the people out of Egypt. So verses 10 through 17 really, I think, help us understand, I think, the first lesson here, which is that God is going to overcome the deficiencies of Moses, as we just heard about, in only a way he can through his power. But he's also going to do it in a very practical way through his brother. And there's something in that as we think about this lesson, that as we examine all of our own personal deficiencies, many times in private and in quiet, we may wonder, why, God, would you put me in this place to do this thing? I feel completely inadequate. I feel like I'm the last person that you'd ever use to do something like this. And yet God comes along and teaches Moses a lesson that he's first going to find his sufficiency in him, but then he's also going to lead people in his life to help him through those deficiencies. And oftentimes, those people are found in our family. Let's look at Moses' response here. I think the first big lesson in his life. He's inadequate for the task, but God's going to actually give him the strength to get through it. He's going to bring about his brother. It's going to happen to his brother. But Moses said to the Lord, "O my Lord, I am not eloquent, either in the past or since you've spoken to your servant. I'm slow of speech and of tongue." Then the Lord said to him, "Who has made man's mouth? Makes him mute, or deaf, or seeing, or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now therefore go, and I shall be with your mouth, and teach you what you shall speak." Let's think about where Moses is at. Okay? Exodus chapter 4, so we'll go back to the Old Testament. We haven't been here in a long time. Okay? And maybe you haven't been here in a long time. Maybe you've been in your personal reading. Okay? Exodus. Think about where Moses was. The Israelites were in slavery. He was in danger of being murdered as a child because Pharaoh was murdering all the boys, Hebrew children. He was given life by his mother. He was put in a basket, sent down a river, really on an act of faith. He was picked up by women of the palace. He was raised in the palace life. Saw a fight happen. He killed a person with his bare hands. He got scared. He ran to Midian. So he spent approximately 40 years in Egypt, 40 years in Midian. He was a fugitive on the run. God meets him, begins to call him to a task to lead the people out of Egypt. And in order to prove his power to Moses, he starts to show him signs. Now, this is something that's going to be, I think, very unique in human history in terms of how Moses is interacting with God. So I want to make sure that we understand the outset. Not everything I'm going to say here is going to have immediate, in a sense, personal application. Moses is a unique figure in human history and in salvation history. However, what Moses says back to God, I think, is something we all can track with. And that's why I began reading in verse 10. When he talks about the fact that he's slow in speech, he's inadequate for the task, he's looked into himself and found himself wanting. As you read those words, perhaps you could look in a mirror and say some of the same things, maybe not these exact words, but you said some of the same things to yourself as you thought about your life before God. Why would you choose me to do that, go there, be with them? I don't possess at all the skill I think is required for this task. And so as you start to think about Moses, you can think about yourself. Well, Moses here, his particular problem is that he was slow of speech. Now, people are divided in terms of who writes commentaries about what exactly that meant. Whether he had a stammer or a stutter, whether he just couldn't find the words when he was in a situation where he had to speak in front of very powerful people. Whatever it was, he felt like that was the thing that was going to hold him back. I can hear his internal conversation. I can't talk. I'm not funny. I'm not persuasive. Frankly, I'm not like my brother. So I have no idea why God would choose me to go speak in front of Pharaoh and not him. And in many ways, we have all of these conversations like Moses with ourselves. And I think here's the weakness of Moses. He's believing a lie. And basically the lie is this: God, I can't do the job I think you're calling me to do because I just see my own inadequacies too much. You must have one person. It's a self-narrative that you're so in touch with your own weakness, you talk yourself out of doing things before the Lord. It's a lie. Because God is now going to come and he's going to actually debunk that myth in Moses' life. Where he starts to ask him the questions. Who's made the man's mouth? Who makes him mute or deaf or seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? First thing he's going to tell Moses is, I want to debunk this myth in your mind, this lie. And let you know the fact that I created your mouth. I give you the ability to speak and I take it away. I give you the ability to see and I take it away. I give you the ability to hear and I take it away. I am in complete and utter control of your life. Every breath I have. It's mine. I've made you and I can sustain you. You may have some of the worst stammering in your life, but I can put you in front of a king and persuade him to do what I want him to do. I have that power alone. See, you start to look at your own deficiencies and you start to see weaknesses. And then your weaknesses can really be weaknesses when you tell yourself a lie, which is like, I'm just not up for the task. But your weakness can actually be a strength, and I think this is where the real lesson comes. Your weakness can be the biggest strength if you trust the fact that God is going to overcome your deficiency. He's going to give you the power to trust him through it. That might not always lead to the result you think or you want. But your biggest weakness can become a strength when you turn around and use it as a way of being dependent on God. Think about it. Every single weakness you have is a tool in the hand of God to make you more dependent on him. That's the lesson. You see, if Moses stood before Pharaoh and he was so eloquent, so persuasive, so funny, he could look at himself and say, of course Pharaoh's going to do what I want. I'm the man. If he stands before Pharaoh and says, I can't do this, God, only you can, then all the praise, all the credit, all the glory goes to God. But see, Moses is still struggling here. And in verse 13 he says, oh my Lord, just please send someone else. Of course, right? God himself is talking to Moses. He's made a very persuasive argument. I made your mouth, I'll be with your mouth. In fact, I'll be with your mind, and I will teach you what to say. I'm going to give you all the cheat notes. It's going to be right in your head. You know, we think we have great technology where people can cheat now, where they put little things in their ears or in their phones. Oh man, we really got it. God is going to be in your mind, Moses. And I'm going to tell you what to say. And yet Moses still comes back with a phrase in the original, which is basically, fine, Lord, have it your way. That's what it really sounds like. This is what you've done. You can have it the way you like it. And now you realize why verse 14 is phrased the way it is in the narrative. That the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses and said, is there not Aaron, your brother, the Levite? So is Moses saying, fine, you made my mouth, you've made the mute to speak and the deaf to hear, the blind to receive eyes. The Lord says, no, I've also done one more thing. I've given you your brother who can speak. I will be with your mouth. I am the most powerful. But I also am going to orchestrate events in your life to give you a person that's going to be able to help you through this little season of time. And there's just something so beautiful in this. Aaron was part of the providence of God in the life of Moses. Aaron was born 3 years before Moses. Aaron went through the same experiences, at least similar, of being in Egypt. Aaron understands a lot of things about Moses. In fact, I think he misses his brother. I know that he can speak well. Behold, he's coming out to meet you, and when he sees you, he will be glad in his heart. Moses, I've given you someone who not only will be able to speak with you and for you, who actually likes you. You kill a man with your bare hands. You try to bury him and get away with it. You're a fugitive on the run. You went to Midian, but you know your brother Aaron, the really good speaker, he actually likes you. He's going to be glad to see you. There likely was decades that went by where he had not actually seen his brother. And here they are going to have a reunion again. And what does God do in this meeting between Aaron and Moses? He's actually showing us something. He is orchestrating Moses and Aaron's life for this moment. He's taking a person who is going to be able to help him meet that deficiency, who's going to help him overcome the need in his life. He's going to orchestrate all of life's events for that moment. And what's so beautiful about this is how one writer put it, it's an anticipatory providence in God. Meaning Aaron's entire life was set up for this moment, so is Moses's. You start to think about how this is going to get strengthened, and how the bond is going to grow. Then flip over just a page, and this is the page in my Bible, to Exodus chapter 7, verses 6 through 12. This is how the bond really is going to be strengthened. They're going to stand before Pharaoh, and speak together, because the Lord's going to be with their mouth. The Lord's going to teach them what to say. But there's something that is so instructive when they're actually at the moment of truth here. It's just so amazing. Verse 6. Here they are in front of Pharaoh. Moses and Aaron did so. They did just as the Lord commanded them. They did just as the Lord commanded them. Now Moses was 80 years old and Aaron was 83 years old when they spoke to Pharaoh. Then the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "If Pharaoh says to you, 'Prove yourself by working a miracle,' then you shall say to Aaron, 'Take your staff and pass it down before Pharaoh, that it may become a serpent.'" So Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh, and they did just as the Lord commanded. Aaron cast down his staff before Pharaoh and his servants, and it became a serpent. Then Pharaoh summoned the wise men and the sorcerers, and they, the magicians of Egypt, also did the same by their secret arts. For each man cast down his staff, and they became serpents. But Aaron's staff swallowed up their staffs. It's like a boa constrictor and a garter snake or something like that. I was thinking about this week. Like, that would have been quite a sight to behold. Still, Pharaoh's heart was hardened. He would not listen to them, as the Lord had said. So what's going on here? They get to the moment of truth before Pharaoh. And as they stand there, in all this collective weakness, in front of the most powerful person on earth who could, in a moment, kill them, they do as the Lord commanded them together. I just like the word "they." And as Aaron is following, in a sense, the lead of Moses, they're now working in tandem to be able to accomplish what God has set out for them to accomplish. And you might think, okay, they look at what happened. The staff gets thrown down, it turns into a serpent, but then Pharaoh is able to flex some kind of magic muscles with his guys. And then there's these snakes that are fighting, and our snake wins. Well, obviously now the result would be Pharaoh would see that, we win, let's go. But the end of the text says, still Pharaoh's heart was hardened. In other words, God is going to do the results. What Aaron and Moses had to do was obey the Lord together. That was the task at hand. Beginning to end, obey the Lord together. What is going to strengthen the deepest bonds in the midst of any kind of relationship, especially as you think of the family relationships that you have, if you are both believers? We obey the Lord together. There might be an older one, there might be a younger one. There might be one who is eloquent in speech and one who is not. There might be one who is smarter than the other. It makes no difference. Someone's life result may appear a little bit more successful than the other. That's not the point. What strengthens the family bond is that they obey the commandment of the Lord together. And that's what's going to endure until it doesn't. Now, I was just thinking of, I get these, I sort of mix eras. So I'm imagining Moses with an Instagram account. And I'm thinking about the kinds of pictures that Moses would take with his brother, Aaron. You know, there might have been some younger pictures, maybe them riding bikes somewhere around the palace. Moses sort of lets him in. But then, if you start to think about some of the most amazing things that happen, and I certainly don't want to reduce these things, but if you think about some of the most amazing moments that happen in the life of Aaron and Moses, through the plagues, through the Passover, through the Red Sea, you know, there they are, their two sandals together, a picture with dust on them, and the caption says, "In the Red Sea," you know, because they're on dry ground. And are you with me here? They're out there, they're like, you know, it's a cool avant-garde picture. It's not their faces, it's the sandals. People do this all the time. Like, why do I see a picture of your feet? I know that you're at the beach. I want to be at the beach, but I'm not there. But thank you for showing me your knees and your legs and your hands. Okay? I don't care. However, Moses, I would care if he had an Instagram account, because I would want to see the picture of what it was like when he went through the Red Sea on dry ground. I would want to see that. And if you start to think about some of the highlights of his life, his brother was right there. Manna from heaven, And even the one that I think really strikes me as just absolutely profound is the battle at Rephidim. When Joshua is fighting, Moses is in the background, kind of like a general. They're fighting the Amalekites, and the way toward victory is Moses' hands in the air. But Aaron and Hur have to be behind Moses to keep his hands up. And as long as his hands are in the air, they win the battle. But Moses can't do it by himself, so he needs Aaron and Hur to be behind him. He's sitting on a rock now with his hands up. They're literally holding up his arms. I'm thinking, man, that's a cool Instagram photo. That's another highlight. But that's the kind of relationship that they have. There's some amazing highs. And then there are crushing heartbreaks. And this is the other side of the coin when it relates to family relationship. That you can have some of your most profoundly joyful moments with people inside the family. And then you can have some moments that wound you that you'll never, ever forget. And what do you do when that happens? Turn over to Exodus 32. Exodus 32, 1 to 10. It's great being in a room this size because I can hear the sound of pages turning. I couldn't hear that so much. Yeah, now everybody's like really rustling their papers. People are just turning pages in any case, but I really enjoy that, listening to this room. Okay, Exodus 32 is the other side of the coin here, with the heartbreak that comes through family betrayal and the lessons that we learn through Moses to make our way through with God's help. Okay? Exodus 32, 1 to 10. When the people saw that Moses was delayed to come down from the mountain as Mount Sinai is receiving the law, the people gathered themselves together to Aaron and said to him, "Up, make us gods who shall go before us. As for this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him." So Aaron said to them, "Take off the rings of gold that are in the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me." So all the people took off the rings of gold that were in their ears and brought them to Aaron. And he received the gold from their hand and fashioned it with a graving tool and made a golden calf. And they said, "These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt." When Aaron saw this, he built an altar for it. And Aaron made a proclamation and said, "Tomorrow shall be a feast to the Lord." And they rose up early the next day and offered burnt offerings and brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. And the Lord said to Moses, "Go down, for your people, whom you have brought up out of the land of Egypt, have corrupted themselves. They turned aside quickly out of the way I commanded them. They made for themselves a golden calf and have worshipped it and sacrificed to it and said, 'These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt.' And the Lord said to Moses, 'I have seen this people, and behold, it's a stiff-necked people. Now therefore let me alone, that my wrath may burn hot against them, and I may consume them, in order that I may make a great nation of you.'" Now, again, there's something so unique in salvation history about Moses that what God is doing here is something that won't be repeated in terms of the fact of how he's giving the law to his people and how the people are responding to it. But there is something also in, I think, the heartbreak of the role of Adam and the idolatry of the people that is just so heart-wrenching that you can actually barely read it when you think about the fact that they had been brothers for 80 years. And so Moses is at, I think, what I would call a mountaintop kind of experience. He's receiving the law on behalf of the people. He's going to be the giver and the mediator of that law. But he's been delayed. They have to wait. Aaron, you have one job. One job. It's to tell the people to wait. Just wait. But without much hesitation, Aaron does the unthinkable at the bottom of the mountain. He completely gives in to the whim of the people. So he goes and he takes the gold that they got from Egypt. He makes a little gold calf. I don't know if that slide made it through. I took a picture from the internet And just, that's a little figurine. I used to think of, when I read the story when I was younger, that it was like a life-size cow. Like, there's no way that ever happened. Okay? It was so small, it was a little, like, action figure, a little figurine. The guy who was going to take the gold and make it into a calf was Aaron. He was going to be the one that put that together. It was his idea. Now think about this. Moses, his brother, is on the mountain receiving the law. And Aaron is at the bottom of the mountain completely sinning against it. Aaron is in this majestic, holy, powerful presence of God. And Aaron is at the bottom completely transgressing, going against everything that they knew about God and what they were going to teach the people. They couldn't be at totally different sides that they tried to. And this is, I think, where the heartbreak comes in. And where, if we're really honest with ourselves, we would love to think of ourselves like Moses at the mountaintop in real, live obedience, but in ways we're much more like Aaron, where when peer pressure and impatience really starts to manifest itself, when fear takes hold, what's the first thing we do? We start to run after everything else other than God. So easy to do. A little bull calf made of gold sounds a little weird, that everybody would be sort of dancing around it. Like, that's strange. But think about, like, I'm looking at a Mercedes-Benz right here. And think about how worked up we get when we get behind the wheel of something. When we open the door to something. Or how much we would dance around if some ticket told us that we were going to receive $1 million. We would just start doing the dancing and the playing and the eating and the drinking, kind of just like that. When fear, impatience, and the sense that something else can give us the satisfaction that only God can give takes hold, of course we respond the same way. And when a group of people comes along and says, come on, you can experience this, of course maybe our first reaction is to go and do exactly what Aaron did. That's the heartbeat of idolatry. And I think the thing with Moses is, this is what really amazes me about him, is that at a moment where he could say of his brother to the Lord, you know, Lord, you're right. You ought to wipe him and the rest of them right off the map. He doesn't do that. He actually starts to plead for his brother. Verse 11, but Moses implored the Lord his God and said, O Lord, why does your wrath burn high against your people, whom you have brought up out of the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand? Why should the Egyptians say, with evil intended, you bring them out to kill them in the mountains and consume them from the face of the earth? Turn from your burning anger and relent from this disaster against your people. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, your servants, to whom you swore by your own self and said to them, I will multiply your offspring as the stars of heaven, and all this land I promised I will give to your offspring, as they shall inherit it forever. And the Lord relented from the disaster he had spoken concerning his people. What's Moses doing here? He's at his finest hour. He's not giving in to the temptation to say, you know what, he's a complete and utter embarrassment, and I would have no problem if you just took him out right now. But what does he do? He remembers the fact that God had made a promise that his people were not going to be expanded and multiplied through him alone, but they were going to be expanded and multiplied through a promise that he had made back to Abraham. So now he's going and reversing the promises of God with God out loud in light of the utter carnage that his brother had caused. Now think about it. You think of some of the wounds that have been caused to you by your family. And the easiest temptations is to just wipe them off. The harder thing to do, and I think the more supernatural thing to do, the Mosaic thing to do, and it's certainly imperfect, was to say, I remember the promises that you've made, and the power that you have to be able to fulfill your promises in and through your people, including me. And it takes everything in me to say this because my spirit doesn't want this to happen. But that's where Moses is in his finest hour. And if you think it couldn't get any worse, after you prayed that prayer, and someone in your family does an even dumber thing. And that's what Aaron did here when he was called out. Moses said to Aaron, now here's the confrontation in verse 21. What did this people do to you that you brought such a great sin upon them? And Aaron said, let not the anger of the Lord burn hot. You know the people. They're set on evil. For they said to me, make us gods who shall go before us. As for this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what's become of him. So I said to them, let any who have gold take it off. So they gave it to me, and I threw it into the fire, and out came this calf. Moses is like, did I just get off the slow bus? Do I look that dumb? Now, this is the stuff, by the way, that's not making it on Instagram. Right? This is life as unperformance art. All the stuff that makes it on Instagram are all the highlights, not stuff like this. When your sibling or someone in your family stands before you and tells you something so stupid you just want to hit them. Right? That's exactly what's happening here. Do I look this dumb? But again, Moses understands something, and he's going to pray again to the Lord. That's the way this chapter ends. He keeps praying. Now, there's going to be judgment that will take place on the part of God and the people. Make no mistake. This is before Christ and the cross. So it's going to happen. But Moses returns before the Lord and says, alas, the people have sinned a great sin. They've made for themselves gods of gold. But now, if you will forgive their sin, but if not, please blot me out of your book that you have written. But the Lord said to Moses, whoever has sinned, I will blot out of my book. But now go and lead the people to the place about which I have spoken to you. What's happening here? He's still praying for the forgiveness of the people, including his brother. The Lord sent a plague on the people because of the calf, the one that Aaron made. What a pregnant little phrase here. God has not forgotten who was in charge of the mutiny. But that still doesn't take away from the fact that they couldn't be forgiven. God will be a God of judgment, but he also will be a God of forgiveness, and Aaron will receive his life. Now, if you think, okay, Aaron, it couldn't get much worse with him. It actually still does. It still does. If you flip over to Numbers chapter 12, and this is where we'll finish. We're done here. Aaron saves his worst for last in Numbers 12. And we're not going to be able to get into every detail here, but we'll just make this the last lesson in the first two verses. Miriam, Moses' sister, and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Cushite woman whom he had married, for he had married a Cushite woman. Okay? And they said, has the Lord indeed spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us also? And the Lord heard it. Now the man Moses was very meek, more than all people who were on the face of the earth. Now, I just want to pause there. Now the man Moses was very meek, more than all people who were on the face of the earth. I wish we had more time to get into this. Suffice to say, if you couldn't get much worse, Aaron, for trying to tell us to spin a tale, that you threw a bunch of gold in a fire and out comes a little calf, then you really have sunk to the lowest depth when in front of everyone you start to criticize your brother about the woman that you married, and you do so starting a mutiny from within your family. And then you start to question and forget about the fact that God is the one who actually put the words in your mouth to be able to speak to Pharaoh. And even though you might think you have a prophetic gift, it really came from the Lord. But now you've gotten so uppity in your own mind, you start wondering, is Moses the only one that God's going to work through here? Is it not me? And you start to think about what's happening in Aaron's life here. And the response of Moses is a response that happened well before all this jealousy and mutiny ever took place. Verse 2 and verse 3 are so instructive to this. In the midst of his own family's heartbreaking mutiny against him, The response of Moses has been formulated for months and years before this ever took place. To be the meekest man on the face of the earth is to say that he was the most humble. That is to say that he understood how to use his mouth, when to speak and when not to speak. To say he is meek doesn't mean he's weak. It actually means he's strong because he knows how to bridle his tongue. And if you've ever been around people that are very wise, they know when to speak and when not to speak. That their silence is a very pregnant thing. And because it's a very pregnant thing, when they speak, you tend to listen. That was Moses. And here is the lesson. That in the face of this heartbreak that's going to come in this family relationship, the preparation had already been made. Because he had learned how to deal in his own heart with all of this before the mutiny occurred. And so he wasn't going to give his brother any more ammunition in what was going to come out of his mouth. He was going to do what? He was going to let the Lord speak. Now think about the wisdom of that. Letting God speak. Letting God vindicate. Letting God take care of covering your deficiencies and your weakness and fighting your battles. What are you saying, Scott? I never defend myself ever again? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there's something in humility when you learn to trust the power of God to vindicate you, to speak in your place, and to be secure to the fact that his opinion of you is dependent on the righteousness of Christ in you and not on what other people are going to say or not say about you. But in this case here, it was going to be his own brother who was going to lead the mutiny. But what Moses was going to do was the same thing of what Peter did, or what Jesus did, as it's related in 1 Peter 2:23. He stays silent before his accusers. Why? Because he likes pain? No. Because he was going to teach us all a lesson. That he was going to learn in that way to entrust himself to him who judges justly. Why was Moses the meekest man on the face of the earth? Because he learned how to entrust himself to him who judges justly. What is going to make you a wise servant before the Lord in the midst of the heartbreak that you have in your family when they say things against you that you cannot reconcile? That you begin by entrusting yourself to him who judges justly. It will be the hardest thing you ever do. That you would say to the Lord, I'm going to let you speak for me. I'm going to let my silence be my witness, because I'm not going to give people more ammunition to speak against me. And I'm going to pray for the wisdom to be able to have the right words to say at the right time. But I'm going to start by praying like Moses did for the forgiveness, not only of those people, but myself. Because I know what's in my heart. And I think when you start to think about the family bonds that you create and that you strengthen, you'll never have any control of the kind of words people say about you, especially your family members. But you can conclude the same thing with Jesus, that there will be all kinds of accusations. But I can entrust myself to him who judges justly. I can know that there's going to be times on a mountaintop with my family, and there's going to be times at the mountain bottom where there's complete and utter heartbreak. But what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to prepare myself in the same way Moses did. To not only pray for their forgiveness, but my own. To start to entrust myself to him who judges justly, and to really choose my words as wisely as I possibly can. Knowing that I won't be able to be in every situation, every conversation where people will say things about me that simply are not true. And I don't know what to do with it. Well, some of the deepest wounds that you're ever going to feel are going to come out of the mouths of those people in your family. And what do? Nobody else knows. It's never the stuff that makes it on social media, Instagram, some ugly stuff. I think Moses and Aaron have a lot to say about this to us. And I just keep going back to that phrase. I will be with your mouth, Moses. I will be with your mouth. I always think about it like, yeah, when we stand in front of Pharaoh. Yeah, when we stand in front of all the people. Yeah, we have to make a big speech. No. I will be with your mouth when you're standing with your brother, and you want to say about a million things to your brother in your mouth. Because maybe some of the greatest lessons that your family ever learned is watching the way you talk to your word. Maybe some of the greatest impact you have is not on the strangers that are the far-off tribes on the edges of Israel that are going to hear your voice, but it's actually right in your own tent. It's in your own house. Think about the challenge that it is to be able to strengthen these bonds. But the thankfulness that we can have from Old Testament to New Testament, that God continues to make promises of God's presence in our mouths. I will be with your mouth. Will you trust me? Moses stuck his hand inside his cloak. He brought it out. It was leprous. He put it back inside. It was made well. It's an amazing sign of the power of God. We don't see signs quite like that. But think about the sign in front of your family of the power of God when you learn how to not say something. Or when you actually say something and mean it as it relates to obedience before the Lord. Think about it. I think we'd be so thankful because we read stories in the Old Testament and the New Testament how God still gives that power to us. God still helps us. He's present with us in our mouths. And you can strengthen those relationships and those family bonds through that power. And I think that's something we should just be so thankful to God for today. That starting today, we can receive and apply that power in our lives. Let me pray. Father, we are humbled as we think about the kind of power that you displayed in the crossing of the Red Sea, in the plagues, in the kind of episodes where staffs turned to serpents, where rivers turned to blood. Those things are so overwhelmingly powerful as evidences of how you have all of earth and life in your hands. And yet I think, Lord, at times I miss out on the lesson of your power when I think about the fact that you have the power to control our tongues. You make the blind to see, you make the deaf to hear. You're able to do all that, including putting a bridle on what we say. We pray today, Lord, that you'll help us to apply that power to our lives, knowing that your presence is powerful to us. We pray, Lord, for our family relationships that can be overwhelming. We have some that give us great joy and some that give us great pain. We pray, Lord, for how we navigate them, because all of them are complex dynamics. But help us today remember the promise, I will be with you. And as we do so, Lord, help us in a moment, supernaturally, where we can give ourselves no credit. Pray for your power to